Hi, good morning everyone. This is Shailendra Marathe. We will start in about next 3 minutes. We expect more people to join. So just hold on for about 3 minutes and we'll start. Thank you. Hi, good morning everybody. This is Shailendra Marathe here. We'll start in next 1 minute. Please hold on. Hi, good morning everybody. This is Shailendra Marathe here. Welcome to this webinar on managing cash in COVID times. Um, Aniruddha, do you want to introduce yourself before I begin?
Good morning,
So I'll be
everyone.
hosting this webinar along with Aniruddha Doshi, Chartered Accountant. Yeah,
So, quick
please go
introduction.
ahead, Aniruddha.
I am a resultant entrepreneur and co-founder at Yagna Entrepreneur Success Services. And I value the fact as an entrepreneur that all of you have decided to invest next 60 minutes of your time. And I hope that at the end of this webinar, there'll be at least one thing which you can take away to think over, apply, and hopefully benefit. So look forward to having some good discussions over the next 60 minutes or so. Over to you, Shailendra.
Sure, thank you. So besides just, but I think Aniruddha didn't introduce yourself fully. So he's a chartered accountant and he has substantial experience in various aspects of business, finance, IT consulting, and business transformation. And he is a practitioner of theory of constraints.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So some of you might have heard about it. And today we are going to talk about that, and we're going to emphasize on how theory of constraint helps us involve the cash constraint as well, right? So that is the topic of today's webinar. Myself, Shailendra Marathe, I'm a chartered accountant as well. So I run a boutique consulting firm called CFO Axis, where we specialize in advising corporates as well as businesses on how they can strategically manage their pricing better. So that's for the start. So what we'll do in next about 75 minutes, I would say about 75 to 90 minutes, is we'll talk about what exactly cash constraint is. We'll like to understand from you whether you are facing that constraint today. Are you able to resolve that constraint? And then we'll give few tips and walk you through examples of how you can manage cash constraint better. Right? That's what we intend to do today. Um, uh, and then maybe you can move to the next slide. So there is a framework around how you think about transformation in business, which is coming from the theory of constraints, which is being practiced worldwide. And then we'll look at how specifically we can apply it to the cash constraint scenario, which many businesses face. Not all businesses have the cash constraint scenario, but we know that number of businesses face that scenario from time to time. And especially today in the times of COVID, where cash cycle has come to a sort of halt, because when your customers don't pay you, you don't pay your suppliers, for example, right? And then there is a demand contraction in the economy, so a lot of people are facing cash constraints. So we thought it is the right time for us to engage with industry to understand, are they facing this scenario, and then potentially give few tips on how to resolve that. We are going to look at how to resolve cash constraint without borrowing, or without getting money from outside, right? So obviously one of the ways that every business can sort of resolve the constraint is from borrowing. But as you would have observed, most of the successful companies don't go to market very frequently, right? So they run out of their internal approvals and they manage their cash very well. So that is what the focus of this workshop is going to be, right? So,
So can I take over, Shailendra?
yeah, please go ahead, Anil. Yeah.
Okay, great. So just to recap what Shailendra was saying, so I'm a chartered accountant and a theory of constraints practitioner for last 10 years. And you will get to know me more as we go through the presentation when I share my experiences prior to coming into the TOC world and after coming into the TOC world. So I'll share that experience as we go through the webinar at different points. Now, the way this webinar is structured is that for first 10 to 15 minutes, what I will share with you is as a generic framework to improve any business. So whether you are in manufacturing, services, software, this is, in my opinion, a very, very powerful framework, but grossly underutilized. And I would like to share that with you. So even if you are not in a cash constraint situation, this framework will be extremely useful for you, whether you are as an entrepreneur, leader, manager, in whatever capacity. And then we'll spend more time to see how we can apply this framework to us today, a very typical scenario of cash constraint, given the effects of pandemic and all of that. And then we'll summarize. Right? So to start off with, what I want to do is share with you a Yagna experience of what we experienced when we use this framework. And for that, I'm going to go back to around 2016 when this idea of Yagna was just getting formed in our heads. And we were interacting with an entrepreneur, and as part of our initial assessment or diagnostics which we do, we were having an interaction to understand what are the challenges, what are the problems he's facing. And in the course of those discussions, this entrepreneur, this company is into making machines. So rotogravure presses and slitters and lamination machines. So this is the kind of company I'm talking about. And as part of the discussions, he made one statement. Right? He said that I have now decided to invest in order to grow. So he was going for essentially capacity expansion. And as then things progressed and we were discussing about now how could this company and Yagna engage into some kind of a project to move this company from where they were stuck in a particular turnover band for about 4 years. And the whole discussion was about, okay, now, what would be the plan to take this company forward and move it from chaos to success, as the Yagna tagline suggests. And as part of those discussions, we told him that one of the key conditions for starting this project with Yagna is going to be that you will have to stop. Let me just repeat, you will have to stop this capital expansion or investment what you're planning. Now he was a little taken aback, right? Who's this consultant coming and telling me that if you want to grow, you should actually not invest right now?
Aniruddha, do you want to go to the next slide?
I will do that. I will do
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
So, uh, So the whole point was that we said that our condition is that you will not invest or you will not do this capacity expansion. And he was initially taken aback, but then he said, okay, let me trust these folks. There's something very counterintuitive, not heard earlier. So he said, okay, I'll give you 90 days period, and then let us take a call after 90 days. So as things turned out in 90 days, a lot of improvements he saw, basically on the operation side, right, in terms of WIP going down, his lead times coming down, his flow in the plant improving. And then from there on, we continued this journey over a 2-year period, and this company saw a significant improvement in its operational and financial performance. So why am I sharing this with you? Right, from there and our other work which we have done now in Yagna over last 3 years of Yagna's existence, and even prior to that with other companies, we have now this very strong belief that any company can significantly improve in a very short period of time with the same resources. So that is the belief with which we work. And that is where it ties back into what Shailendra mentioned on the first slide, that this webinar is not about borrowing more money, because we don't believe in that, at least definitely not as the first intervention. And so now some of you might be saying, is this magic? Are we talking about magic that in matter of 3 months, these kind of results can happen, and in 2 years, companies' turnover can double and profits can quadruple and all that? Is this some kind of a magic? So there is actually no magic, right? It's all logic, right? Logic based on theory of constraints and a lot of body of work done over last 40 years. I will not go into all the details right now, but the basic concept of TOC being that there is a limiting factor and there is only one way to identify that constraint and manage it. Excellent performance is possible in a very short period of time. So, and Yagna has dedicated as a team of entrepreneurs, we have decided that we would like to work in this way, where we want to help companies to exploit their inherent potential, capacity. There's a lot of capacity and money which is blocked in working capital and so on and so forth, right? So this is what the way we like to describe the Yagna way is why, how, and what, right? That a company can significantly improve by focusing on the constraint, and we as Yagna provide consulting and implementation services, right? So now moving forward, what is this significant improvement and what is the framework based on which I am talking about these kind of results? And this is not only Yagna, there are numerous case studies which are available around the world, which have delivered super results. So now this framework is what I called as, in my opinion, one of the most powerful management tools developed over last 30, 40 years by Dr. Goldratt. And I will just go into that. So this is the improvement framework I'm talking about. It is also called the process of ongoing improvement, or it is also popularly called as the 5 focusing steps, because it gives you a mechanism to focus. That is why it is called 5 focusing steps. The first step of that, so it's actually step 0 plus 5 steps, so you can say it's that way 6 steps, but we normally call it as 5 focusing steps. The first step being, decide on the goal and measurements, right? Unless you know where you want to go, any road will take you there, right? So you need to be very clear about what is the goal and how are you going to measure the goal. This may seem very basic 101, but from our experience of now working with many groups in India, and you will find that at the start of our project, there is no clarity amongst people on really what is the goal of the company and how do we measure it. The next step is, then after you have decided the goal and measurements, we then go into this next step of identify the constraint, and it is only the constraint. There cannot be at any point of time multiple constraints. The next step then you go is, once you have identified the constraint, then the next logical thing which flows out from that is, okay, how do I get the most out of the constraint? So in TOC there is a specific word used called, how do I exploit the constraint? So there is some kind of decisions which are taken. I'm not going to dwell on this too long, because you will find that we'll talk about this when we talk about in detail in the cash constraint part, as well as in the next couple of slides. The next step after this is, once you have taken that decision, it is very important that in an organization, everybody actually subordinates to this decision. Because if everybody tries to act as if they are the focusing point or constraint, no improvement will happen. And which is what happens in most organizations today. Look back at your organization and see if that is true. step number 4 is, then after you have done the first 3 steps, only then and then itself is when you go and do any kind of elevation or investment. And I'm even not going to touch this step in my main presentation. We will only look at it very partially towards the end. And step 5 is, because this is an ongoing journey and a company is a living kind of thing, and it is, things are moving, market is moving. Once you have done the first 3 steps, 4 steps of the constraint, there is a possibility that the constraint will move. So it has to be like an ongoing cycle, and that is why it is called a process of ongoing improvement. Now, what I want you to do is, so what I'm going to talk about in this generic framework are the first 2 steps, step 0 and step 1. We will take step 0, 1, 2, 3 for the cash constraint. So now in step 0, what I want you to do is, while I'm talking, just think about and type in the chat box if possible, what do you think is the goal of your company? Right? What is, and I'll give you Yagna and CFO Access point of view on what we think is the goal of the company. But for that, as you think, just to trigger your thinking, I'm just putting up a slide here. And this is based on a workshop which we had conducted with a division of a 2000 crore company. This is into engineering products, pumps, motors, and those kind of products. And this was one team, chairman and all of his direct report is sitting in a gold tree workshop. We call it the gold tree workshop. And yeah, there's some annotations I think coming on the slide. So and these are some of the anecdotal remarks which we picked up in the workshop. So there were some people who said, okay, the goal of the company is sales. Some people said, oh, is it about cost control? Some people said, is it market share, customer satisfaction? So you had 10 people, same company, right, under working under the same roof, and who had different views of what is the goal of the company. And there were certain light-hearted comments which were made at the time of the workshop, and though they seem light-hearted, they actually have a very deeper meaning to it if you look at each of them. My favorite one is, one person said that you're talking about employee satisfaction, KRAs, and at times of the appraisal, KRA for me is kyun rakhe aapko, right? So think about, what do you think is the, we'll take maybe about 10-15 seconds. Just think about what do you think is the goal of your company, either the company you are running or your client, or the company which you are associated with as a leader, right? And we'll quickly get into then what is our point of view on the goal of the company. So I can see some, I think, responses have come in. Okay, but I'll move on in the interest of time. We'll have Q&A at the towards the end, so we can again interact about if you have a different point of view on this. So the way Yagna and CFO Access looks at the goal of the company is in a very simple way, that the goal of any company is to keep on increasing its value, right? Make this company more and more valuable. Now, valuable, one obvious thing which comes to mind is, okay, are you talking about valuable from the point of view of the investor or owner? And yes, of course, he is the key stakeholder in all of this. But then you have other stakeholders as well. So you have the customer, you have the supplier, you have the team, the employees who are working in that company. And each of them have a way of looking at how, whether this company is valuable or not. Right. So I'm just going to put up that hierarchy kind of thing. So you have the owner on the top, making money is what he is looking at, or the investor. And there are different ways you can measure it. I will not go into all the details. Measurements is another topic by itself. But customer is looking at it from the point of view of, should I deal with this company? It is valuable for me if it is a company which is meeting my significant need, which other people in the industry are not able to. The team is looking at it, from a point of view. Supplier is looking from a point of view. So the key point on this being, one is, of course, you need to be aware of what is the goal of the company. Second is, do you know what is the real unmet need of your customer? We have seen n number of times in big companies, small companies, that there is no clarity on really what is the need which you are meeting of the customer through your product. Everybody is talking in terms of product catalogs and technology, but how is it actually being used by the customer? What is the need for which he is using this particular product? We have seen that there is lack of clarity. And the third important point being that ultimately what you want to do is, as you plan your improvement actions and projects, what you want to aim for is a win-win-win across all the stakeholders. So again, my recommendation is, go back and check whatever projects, whatever internal initiatives you are running, are they in the spirit of win-win-win? Right? If they are not, you will find that at some stage or the other, that initiative will get derailed. So this is first recommendation from our side. Please define what is the goal and be very clear how you're going to measure. So this is our step 0 of that 5 focusing steps. Now, step 1 is identify the constraint. And typically what happens with us in our workshops is that when we do this kind of goal and sub goals, and then we have what we call as necessary conditions, it assumes the form of a goal tree. Right? We call that construct as a goal tree. And then we ask the team that, okay, now you start assigning what we call as red, yellow, green colors to each of these boxes to say, okay, is this a box which is under, which satisfactory, under control, then you mark it as green. If it is something which really needs to be improved, okay, yellow. And red, if it is in a complete mess, immediate attention is required. Right? So we just do this quick marking of red, yellow, green. And what you generally find is that if a company is not growing, not making money, most of these boxes are either red or maybe few of them are yellow. And which is what happened when we were doing this exercise with a big 2000 crore group, which I talked about earlier. And then the question comes in that, okay, now that you have done this exercise, so you are going to be like, other business improvement practitioners who are going to come back and say, okay, now we have got to line up 20, 30, 40 initiatives to handle each of these boxes. Right? And that is where clearly the TOC way, theory of constraint way, departs. Right? And the basic point which I made earlier being that underlying all of these problems, because each of these boxes, and when you attach a particular color coding, what you're essentially saying is that there are some challenges, problems, or some symptoms, right? From a doctor kind of medical terminology, you can say these are all symptoms. So instead of trying to address symptoms, TOC says, okay, let's do the analysis of trying to find out what is that one cause which is creating all these problems. And that is where there is a departure from other methodologies which are out there for business improvement. So what is this term constraint? Now one can keep on talking about constraint for next 3 hours and they will not be enough, but I just want to give you a very, very simple understanding of what is a constraint. And in fact, this is the kind of concept from which this entire body of knowledge of TOC or theory of constraints which got developed starting from late 70s, early 80s. Right? So when Dr. Goldratt first wrote his software and then wrote the book The Goal, I don't know how many of you have read the book The Goal. I would recommend it. Please go ahead and read it. He used this concept of bottleneck at that time, which I am now calling on this slide as constraint. Right? So if you look at it from the point of view of a plant, and you've got 5 machines or 5 steps through which a particular input has to go through, what you find here is that you have step C or machine C. Am I audible, Shirish? Am I audible,
Yes,
Shirish?
yes, you are audible. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I just got a message that my internet connection is unstable. So,
No, I think I'm able to hear you well. Yes.
so very simply, if you look, okay. So going back to the point of constraint or bottleneck as it was called at that time, what you find here in this example is that step C or machine C is what is really deciding the entire flow of your plant or output of your plant. Whatever else you might do anywhere, it is really not going to help. Right? And what we have found over last now 3 years of Yagna and prior to that experience, prior experience with TOC, is that this very simple concept is also not recognized, not taken, internalized, and then implemented even in big companies. So seems very obvious, right? That yes, I know that my constraint is in step C. Right? So even this realization is not there. So then you can imagine that obviously anything to do with the next steps of 5 focusing steps doesn't happen. Right? So this is a very simple concept. One can expand on constraint and bottleneck for a long time, but I will not go into that right now. What I want to do now is I think Shailendra will conduct a poll. Right? Can you please trigger a poll?
Yes, so I'm launching a poll now. So we want to understand from you, as of
Yeah.
today, right? Today, which is the most critical constraint for your organization? So choose one of these. I know there could be multiple constraints at any given point in time. So I'm launching a poll now. So the most critical constraint for you, is it production or operations? Is it market or demand, or is it cash to grow your business, right? So please choose one of these. We'll keep the poll open for maybe about 30 seconds max to get just a hang of the this cohort of participants, what they think about the constraint today in this specific scenario. Please go ahead and vote, maybe 5-10 seconds more. Right, great. So we'll close the poll now, and I'll show you the results. So I hope you are able to see the results now. Anuruddha, can you confirm?
Yeah, so production, 24% of the attendees are saying that they believe their constraint is in production. 41% are saying it is in the market, which is that they don't have enough demand. And 35% are saying it is in cash. So the cash is the constraint.
Right. So I'll just stop sharing the results.
Yeah.
So thanks for the feedback. So we have about one-third participants saying they have the cash constraint. So the seminar the workshop would be obviously most relevant to them today, but the same principles as Aniruddha mentioned can be applied to resolve the production as well as the market constraints.
Correct. And there are some interesting concepts which I am going to share, though it is covered as part of cash constraint. You will find that they're actually also applicable even if you have a market constraint or a production constraint. So we'll go into that. What I'm going to quickly talk about is how do you identify that you are in a production or backend constraint? The constraint is at the backend. How do you identify is it market, or how do you identify if it is cash? So cash, anyways, we will do a deep dive over next half an hour now. So production as a constraint, typically you will find that in a company when you have, let's say, a pending order backlog, right? You have a backlog of orders for reasons like quality, for reasons like cost competitiveness. You find that the customers are willing to give orders to this company, but they are not able to supply fast, they are not able to supply in time, and every time you find that their backlog keeps on increasing, right? Unless there is some adverse impact in the market. And in fact, sometimes what happens is that if they keep on delaying and it gets to a beyond a tolerance point of the customer, that production constraint, suddenly you start seeing that it is as if a market constraint, because customers have now decided that we don't want to work with this company because they just take a very long time. Right, so typically what you will find is production, when 7 or 8 companies out of 10, when we walk in, we find that yes, they have an order backlog, they have good products, they are cost competitive, but they're not able to deliver in time. Market constraint, one can look at it from 2 points of view. One is you might feel that market, I'm not getting orders. So we are not talking here about market size as a constraint, right? There are very few companies in the world where market size will be a constraint. Maybe the likes of Intel, Microsoft, things like that, companies like that. But most of the times market constraint is when I'm not getting orders. Now, yes, there are certain companies who have superb delivery performance, who have really identified the need of the customer properly, but yet they are not getting orders. Maybe because of the way they are approaching the market, their market reach is not good, the way their salespeople are going about and selling that particular uh, capability which they have built in the backend. There is a possibility, but a good amount of cases where people think or companies think that they have a market constraint is when actually they have not identified the significant need of the customer, and they have not built the capabilities at the backend in their delivery engine to fulfill that need. So my suggestion is that all those attendees who have said market is a constraint, please go back and really check. We might even actually conduct one webinar as part of this sequence of webinars of only talking about market as a constraint, right? And then of course we will handle cash now. So cash as a constraint is a very interesting situation, because cash, as you saw in the diagram earlier, is also the goal, but it is also a resource which you need for running your operations. So now cash constraint is a very interesting situation where what we are saying is that you have the capacity, you have the orders, but you do not have the cash to get the material from the suppliers. Suppliers have got to a stage where now they are saying that sorry, your payables have gone, your outstanding has gone very high, we cannot support you. And so you're in a situation where you have capacity, you have orders, you have suppliers identified, but you're not able to pay the suppliers, and you do not have a mechanism now of raising cash very easily. Right? Because typically you will find that companies do go and borrow money from the bank or some financial institutions. But we are now talking about a situation where you have exhausted all those options, right? All the normal means of financing, bank financing, financial institutions, you've already done that. But now you're at a stage where, sorry, everybody has said, no, sorry, we don't want to deal with your company. But your orders, your customers are saying, please, give us these products. So we are going to now deep dive into cash constraint. And again, we are going to use the same 5 focusing steps and apply them to now cash as a constraint. So let us do that. Right? So applying framework to cash constraint. So now I want to talk about this step 0, which is the define goal and measurements. And what I am going to do in this step 0 is a very, it could be like a basic 101. I'm going to share with you how do you very simply calculate what is the cash which has got generated during a particular period of time. And I'm talking here about operating cash flow. I'm not talking about here investment or financing related cash flows. I'm only talking about operating cash flow, which is basically when you take raw material and convert into finished products and all the cash elements around that. So we're only talking about that. So what I've said is that if you look at it, if it is like a fast cash company, I've just coined this term. If it's like a fast cash company, what happens in this company is that all your transactions, first of all, they happen very, very fast and they happen in cash, right? So your purchases are made in cash. Your production is immediately started. It is as if production people are waiting to, begin the production, take whatever you have bought. Production is completed also in a very, very fast time. Immediately sale is made, material is dispatched, and you also incur whatever expenses you have to keep this whole thing running. You do it through cash. Now some of you might be saying, this is utopia, this is okay, it doesn't happen this way in real world. I know that, so we'll come to that. But the point I want to make is, if it is a fast cash company, it is very simple to calculate what is the cash flow for a particular period, and it is nothing but the same as profit, right? Because you're selling everything in cash, you're purchasing everything in cash, your expenses are in cash. So whatever remains at the end of the year is your profit, but it's also your cash, right? Now, again, some of you might be saying, we wish the world was so simple, but this is essentially what probably it was 60, 70, 80 years back, right? At least the some parts of it, right? When we say that Ford in 1900, 1905, 1910, the end-to-end lead time from the iron ore to shipping the car was something like 81 hours, right? So it was those kind of things, but we have got sophisticated, we have got complicated, we have a lot of technology now. So what happens because of that? Now we are not in a situation of fast cash. We are now what I am calling as a slow accrual company. So that makes the job of calculating what cash flow has got generated a little bit tricky. So what is it, right? So now you find that essentially what this diagram is saying is that now you have got time now between one event of say a purchase happening and finally your payment getting collected from the customer, right? Ultimately this is the cycle which you are managing, that in a manufacturing, I'm talking about most of the examples I'm going to talk about in manufacturing. So from the time you have bought the material till the time you have collected the payment is now, this could range from, we have seen in our clients case when we start projects, it could be as long as 10 to 12 months, right? So that is the kind of cycle time, cash to cash cycle time you are talking about. And cash to cash cycle time is definitely important when it comes to cash constraint situation. But mind you, all of those who said that you are in even production constraint or market constraint, my recommendation, our recommendation from Yagna CFO Axis, cash to cash cycle time is a metric you have to monitor no matter where, whatever situation you're in, right? Because ultimately the idea is to shorten the cash to cash cycle. So now what is happening is that it is not so easy to calculate cash, because your profit, what you're making through your accrual, and what actually cash is getting generated through the operating cash flow are two different things. So what do you do? Okay, you say that, okay, cash is nothing but profit minus change in working capital. Right? So this is very, very simple, basic 101 of how do you calculate cash generated during a particular period. Again, my recommendation, you'll keep on talking about recommendations. I am a consultant, so it is second nature for me to keep on recommending. But please go back and incorporate cash to cash cycle time, cash flow, all of these into your metrics, dashboard, whatever you are using to track your business performance. Okay, so this is step zero. Even in a cash constraint situation, the ultimate goal and all of that of the company is not changing. You are in this cash constraint situation, but I just thought of sharing how to calculate the cash flow. Now, second, we are going to go to is step one. So step one, if you remember of the 5 focusing steps, is identify the constraint. So I touched upon this, so I will quickly move on that when you talk about cash as a constraint, what we are saying is how do you identify whether a company is in a cash constraint? We say, okay, they have orders, they have the capacity, they have supplies identified, but now they are not able to pay the suppliers and they are not able to raise cash easily from normal sources of funding. Right. So this is what we said uh, is the as a cash constraint. Now my question is, now this is again a poll question, which Shailendra, if you can
Yes, I will do that. So this is the second poll question. So
trigger.
we want
Yeah.
to understand from you, you know, are you today well equipped to identify the cash constraint and take the steps to resolve that constraint, right? So we'll discuss that in next about 30 to 35, 40 minutes. But today, as of now, are you able to identify the cash constraint and take steps? So the options are fairly straightforward. Yes, we have identified and are able to resolve. No, we are not able to identify or resolve. We think there is a cash constraint, but we don't know how to resolve that. And then third could be we simply don't have the cash constraint. We have plenty of money. We have some other, kind of a constraint in our scenario, right? So I'll just start. I'll just launch the poll now. So you should be able to see the poll now, right? So please vote on the poll. We'll close in about 30 seconds. Uh, are you equipped to identify cash constraint and take steps to resolve it as of today, right? So that's the question. So please go ahead and vote. I will close the poll in about next 10 to 15 seconds max. Are you equipped to identify a cash constraint and take steps to resolve? Yes, we have identified and we are able to resolve. No, we are not able to identify or not able to resolve. And the third is we don't have cash constraint. Would like to meet people who don't have cash constraint. Good people to meet, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
right. So jokes apart, so I'll end the polling now. So thanks for voting on this poll, and I'll share the results with you now. So we have about 50% people saying yes, we have identified the cash constraint and we know how to resolve that, which is a fantastic thing. Great, congratulations. And about 40% saying we are not able to identify or we are not able to resolve. So it's somewhere there and we need to do something about it. And there are about 8% saying we do not have a cash constraint, which is a great situation to have. So maybe you need to look at resolving that market or operations constraint, or if you have any constraints in business. So I'll stop sharing the results. So Aniruddha, please start. Yeah.
Sure. So as I said, this just recaps what we talked about cash constraint. And one thing I want to say to attendees, I think who are not in cash constraint, very good, you're not in cash constraint, but be aware that cash constraint doesn't develop overnight, right? It is generally preceded by a cash shortage kind of a situation where you start finding that your the cash to cash cycle time is elongating. You are having to put pressure on the suppliers, their payments are getting delayed, and this situation can continue for whatever period depending upon where you are, what kind of business you have and what kind of relationship you have with your suppliers and so on and so forth. But mind you, you have to be very careful, because as soon as you find that your inventory and receivables are going out of shape and they're increasing, or you have done some recently a capital expansion project for which you have taken out some cash, and you have by that you are disturbing your working capital cycle, or if there is some very specific situation where there is some kind of a big demand contraction, which is what possibly happened in the initial period of lockdown, when you found that your operating expenses or fixed expenses had to continue in theory, but there was no business which was happening. So be careful that you might think that today you are not in a cash constraint situation, but be very, very mindful because suddenly that cash shortage can become a cash constraint. And that vicious cycle is very dangerous. So I want to just share with you through a simple example of what can really happen with when you get into a cash constraint. And there is one very famous quote which says that businesses don't die because they run out of profits, but they die or close because they run out of cash. So you have to be very careful. And especially during these times, one has to be very, very careful. So what I've done is I've just taken one very simple example. If you can see it, I will quickly explain what it is. So what we are saying is that this company is extremely delicately or precariously balanced right now. Right? The money available with them is at the start of week one is 100 lakhs. We'll use the unit of value as lakhs. Operating expenses or fixed expenses are 50 lakhs. So they have committed to that. There is no option. They have to pay that. So which means the balance now is only what is available for them to purchase material and run their operations. The way this company is structured, they are able to get 100 lakhs when they put in 50 lakhs into material, and they are able to immediately convert it into cash. So they have again 100 lakhs at the end of week one. And today they are at around 50% capacity utilization. This is the starting point, right? So they are actually not making any money. Whatever they are selling, they are either one side they are spending for purchase, on the other side they are spending for operating expenses. And this kind of situation is going on over a period of time where they are just about surviving on a week to week, month to month basis. Now, the interesting bit comes when you take a scenario that some pandemic happens, or even if it's not a pandemic, some business situation happens where now instead of having this 100 lakhs at the end of week one, say a customer goes bad, something happens, and now you find that they don't have 100 lakhs, but they only have 90 lakhs. Right? So what they have is in the first week you find that now they've not collected 100 lakhs. What they have collected is only 100 minus 10, which is 90 lakhs. And as we said, it's a cash constraint situation, so they are not able to raise any money, and they're not doing anything on the operating expenses. They have to spend that much. So what you find through this example is that one small thing happened in the first week can take this company to a closure within 4 weeks. Okay, so because suddenly you find that now what money is available for operations is suddenly going down drastically from week 2, week 3, week 4, and by week 4 you have exhausted all your money. Right, so this is the danger of a cash constraint situation, because the vicious cycle which is running in the background, which most of us are not aware of in our business, can quickly take this company towards closure, or it will have to mean some distress sale or something like that. Right? So this is what I wanted to cover in the step one of that 5 focusing steps for cash constraint, that how do you identify the cash constraint, and what is the danger of the cash constraint existing for a period of time, and the vicious cycle existing running in the background, and what will be the result of it. This is catastrophic for a company. Now let us talk about the step two, because obviously we want to come out of this. The whole idea is to come out of this. What is the solution? So step two is we say, okay, what is now the means to, now we have identified that, okay, cash is the constraint. What decisions do I take so that I'm able to come out of this? Because that is my step two. I have to take some decisions. So step two is, the way I have worded it here is that you will now focus on only two measurements or two metrics. One is the cash to cash cycle time, which we saw earlier. And we will also talk about a metric called cash IRR. It is nothing but our normal IRR, which is internal rate of return, for all of those who are familiar with that term. It is the same thing. It's only that we have just prefixed it with cash IRR, because normally that IRR is used for project evaluation and those kind of things. So we are only prefixing, otherwise it is the same thing. So what we are saying is that the company takes the decision that all my actions, all my policies, everything will now be aligned only to these two terms.
Aniruddha, I'm now able to see this slide.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah.
Thank you.
So what I've done on this slide is, again, I have summarized what we talked about in step zero, which is how the cash flow for a particular period is calculated. which is nothing but operating profit and change in working capital, right? So operating profit minus change in working capital gives you our operating cash flow. And the way we calculate operating profit is throughput is a TOC term. You can take it as gross contribution in popular parlance. Minus operating expenses gives me my operating profit. And the way throughput is calculated is sales minus material consumption. In TOC, we call it truly variable cost. Right. So this is
Aniruddha,
nothing. Yeah.
sorry to interject again. I think one of the participants has pointed out there is a
Yeah.
rectangle on the right hand side of your screen. So if there is a chat bar or something like that open, maybe you can close that. Yeah, I was able to see that,
Okay.
but then I thought it's some issue on my side. On the right hand side, uh,
On the top.
no. Occupying most of the right hand side. It's occupying most of the right hand side there. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I think that is the one. Yeah.
Is it is it better now?
Yes,
Is
yes.
it
It's
is it
most of it, yeah, has disappeared. Yes.
okay? Okay. I think that that panel was open. So
Fine,
yeah,
fine. Okay.
good, good.
Thanks for pointing
Thanks.
that out. Yeah. Please
Yeah, yeah, thanks
continue.
for pointing it out. So what I was saying is in the exploit step two, what decision the company needs to take when they are in a cash constraint situation is I am only going to now measure cash to cash cycle time and I am going to measure cash IRR. And I was just explaining this top part of how operating profit is calculated because there finally it gets connected to what I call as value addition or sales divided by material consumption, which is the metric which we will use for calculating cash IRR. And on the bottom part, what you see is the change in working capital, which is nothing but inventory plus receivables minus payables, which gives me my cash to cash cycle time. Right. So these are the this cash to cash cycle time becomes the key metric and the cash IRR. So I'm just going to quickly project what are the formulas for that. Uh, Cash to cash cycle time is nothing but you're just adding in because this is a time. So weeks, you can use days, you can use months, but we prefer to use weeks. So inventory weeks plus receivable weeks minus payable weeks. Right. So this is what gives you the amount of cash which is blocked in working capital, right? Because we are talking about now a cash constraint situation. So you've got to figure out how do I release cash which is already blocked. Otherwise, you'll have to go and borrow, which is not possible right now, and which we don't want to do. And the second part is the cash IRR, which is I'm taking the value addition and I am using this formula of 1 upon cash to cash cycle time. We'll not go into the formula. The simple part of, I mean, those who are aware of IRR, it doesn't need any explanation. But again, basic 101 of IRR, the two things we are looking at is, okay, if I invest 100 rupees, what is it that I'm getting back and how fast I'm getting back? Right? Those are the two main components of cash IRR or IRR. And that is what we are using here for taking certain decisions. So it is nothing new. Most of the companies around use the concept of IRR. Only thing is they use it in the for project evaluation and things like that. We are saying just use that if you're in a cash constraint situation for taking certain decisions. And I'll show you an example of that decision. Right. So this is nothing but step two, where you have decided these are the two metrics which matter. None of the other metrics now matter. All your ROI and ROC and EVA and right. I mean, finance people as chartered accountant, I know I have worked in the past where we have done all of these nice models and brought in a lot of complexity for the organization. None of that needs to be measured, should not be measured, should be stopped. Right? Please stop. Don't get into all of that when you're in a cash constraint situation. That is the simple point from here. Now, if you now, what do I need to do so that I align everything to this? Because the entire organization, we're not talking here about one person or two people, right? We're talking about an organization. An organization has multiple people who come together and synchronize ultimately to deliver a product to the customer. So I'm going to give you some 2-3 examples of what does it mean in step 3 to subordinate or align to this decision. So for that, let us look at, say, in purchase, for example. Right now we are talking about operating cash flow. So when you are talking about purchase, the way people block their cash is they buy in large quantities. Right, as soon as some supplier as soon as the purchase person, because his metric many a times is cost reduction, so he taps into a supplier. Supplier says, yes, I can give you this kind of a discount, but you'll have to buy next 3 months or 6 months of your requirement. Right? Please stop doing that if you're in a cash constraint situation, because you're again go back and see any decision, any action, what is the impact it is having on your cash to cash cycle time. As soon as you buy in bulk, much in excess of what you really need in a reasonable period of time, you are blocking your cash. Second point is don't reject higher prices, evaluate based on CIRR. So I will take an example and show you how do we apply this concept of CIRR. Uh, but don't reject higher prices, because suddenly seems that, how can I pay a higher price to my supplier? But sometimes in cash constraint situation, it is required, and it makes is don't get into this thing of utilization, efficiency. I want to reduce my setups. Yes, all that is good, but please remember you're in cash constraint, and the fact that we have said that in the cash constraint definition, I have enough capacity, right? So don't take, again, you take more larger batches, you're increasing your cash to cash cycle time. On the sales side, stop buying sales through credit period. There will be customers who will come and entice you and say, okay, we are ready to give you 1% more, 2% more, you give us more credit. Again, you are extending your cash to cash cycle time. And at times you will have to take the decision of collecting money even at a very, very high discount. And I'll take that example in the next slide. But just to share with you a couple of examples, so the current project which we are doing with one company, one listed company, Yagna team has gone behind and made sure that our receivables come down, because this company was already cash flow. Then we also use the concept of cash buffer. All of that gives an early warning to say, okay, you have to expedite on these actions, you have to do whatever it takes, but get the money. Similarly, past experience of working with an engineering company which used to make motor products, and it used to be that they had different lines depending on the motor frame and all of that, and they used to take few SKUs and just churn them out you through large batches in a particular month, right? And so you used to find that in the market this SKU was only available after 3 months, because this run only used to come after 3 months, and that completely disturbed their not only cash to cash cycle time but their complete channel, right? Because the dealers were completely first. So many examples of this, but in the cash constraint situation, this becomes very, very critical. So now I want to take an example and show you in a given situation. It's a bit of an extreme example I've taken just to make the point. In fact, just before I say that, there are more stop and start actions which I have put in the appendix, which you can look at later when you get the presentation. So now if you can see, Shailendra, are you able to see the slide on with that table?
Yes, I'm able to see Aniruddha.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
just checking
Yeah.
because of the
No, good. There was
we
some
are
lag while you were talking
conducting
for
this.
some time, but that's okay. You can carry on. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So now the decision in front of us is like this. I know this is a busy slide with a lot of numbers. The decision now, we are in a cash constraint situation, and the decision now we have to take is, a customer has said that, okay, you've gone after him and you said, okay, I want my money. He's saying, okay, I am ready to pay you. I am ready to pay you right now, but I want a 25% discount, right? You say, what? This is crazy, right? How can I mean, how can a customer ask me 25% discount, and where is the question of even evaluating this? Right? But let's go step by step because we're in a cash constraint situation. So what we are saying is our throughput percentage or gross contribution. I'm talking about scenario one now. So throughput percentage or gross contribution is around 30%. So what that means is that when I sell something for 100 rupees, 70 rupees goes to my suppliers, material cost, BOM cost, 30 rupees is what I retain. My cash to cash cycle time is 8 weeks. So based on that formula which I showed you earlier, the cash IRR per week comes to 5%. Yes, that's good. It comes to 5%. Now the customer has come and said, okay, I'll pay you now 8 weeks before. Actually, I was going to pay you, or your credit period told me that I'm going to pay you after 8 weeks. But now because you're sitting here demanding all of this, making all this, you and cry, I'm ready to pay, but you give me a 25% discount. Now what happens is, if I take that offer of 25% discount, what I'm going to get only after that discount giving the discount is only 75 rupees, right? You take 100 lakhs, 100 whatever. I'm just taking 100 number. So I'm only going to get 75 rupees. But now if you see, because I have orders, I'm in a position that within 8 weeks, which is my cash to cash cycle time, I'm actually able to convert this 75 rupees to 107 rupees. So after 8 weeks, I would have actually got in normal course of time 100 rupees, and that too will not give you in 8 weeks. Does it really give in 8 weeks? So I'm not even getting into that. But even with that aside, because of my cash IRR of 5% per week, it actually makes sense for me to take that money even with a 25% discount. Right? And as I said earlier, 25% is a very extreme discount I took just to make the point. You'll probably talk about anything around 5%, 10% kind of thing. So, this seems very, very out of the world, right? I mean, this seems very counterintuitive. How can you take, how can you agree for a 25% discount to a customer? But it makes sense depending on what situation you're in. Similarly, in scenario two, now if you see, is this blanket? Okay, every time a customer tells me 25%, do I go ahead? No, you'll have to look again at your cash IRR. Now, in second scenario, I have just said that let's say a company has a throughput percentage of 20%. So now in that scenario, what you find is that you will not be able to turn around 75 rupees to more than 100 rupees. Right? It will only come to 94 rupees. So then it doesn't make sense for you purely based on this number to go confident about this customer. That's a different point. Right? But purely from a cash IRR point of view, it will not be advisable. Similarly, in scenario three, it is just a case of I have just changed certain parameters just to show you that how decisions can change depending upon throughput percentage, cash to cash cycle time, and how much early or late you are going to get that money. So in the second and third scenario, what we are saying is it is not advisable purely based on IRR calculation to actually go agree for the discount. Right? So this just gives you an example of how to use cash IRR. You can use cash IRR in a scenario where you're in a cash constraint. Now you have to decide, okay, I have this limited cash available right now. Where do I deploy? Because your different products might have different cash IRR could be different. So if you have to take that decision, do I prioritize? Let's assume that I or I can get orders. Right? So this is an application of cash IRR which I wanted to show you. And with that, I'm just summarizing the whole application of those 5 focusing steps to the cash constraint. So again, decide on the goal and measurements, identify the constraint. So decide on the goal and measurements. What we said in cash constraint situation was be very clear, calculate the cash flow, keep on tracking it. Step one is now you've identified that, okay, I'm in a cash constraint situation. Step two is decide very clearly that the only two measures which matter to me is cash to cash cycle time and cash IRR. And then make sure that all your policies decisions are aligned to this decision. Right? You have to stop many things what you were doing when you were not in a cash constraint situation. You have to stop many things and you have to start these few things so that you are able to quickly come out, because you have orders, you have capacity. It is just a question of managing this time period, taking these orders and come out of the cash constraint situation. Right? So now I think, Shailendra, do you want to trigger the third poll?
So thanks, Aniruddha, for walking us through very patiently with these examples. There was some audio lag, but I hope people were able to catch up with you still. An example of a constraint in bandwidth, right? So, but let's live with that for some time. So I think it's okay now. So we'll just want to understand from you now that, after Aniruddha having explained us very methodically, how you identify a cash constraint. I think it defined as well, what is the situation of a cash constraint. Just for example, you need to have orders in hand are not able to fulfill, right? That's an example of a cash constraint. So are you able to now identify how to zero in on a constraint as a cash constraint in business, and have you understood maybe few steps that you can take to resolve that constraint. So we just want to to sort of understand where we are at this point in time. So I'll just launch a survey. This is the third and last survey for us. I'm launching the poll now. So please vote. We'll like to move on fast. I'll keep it open for max 30 seconds or so. So are you able to identify cash constraint and take steps? Yes. We will be able to identify and resolve that. That's really fantastic if we can do that. Maybe yes, we might need some help. So for some of us, maybe this is a new concept, and we haven't looked at it the way Aniruddha has presented today. And maybe again, going back, and some of you may not have that constraint, so which is understandable, and it's a great situation to be in. But as Aniruddha said, keep monitoring your cash flows. See that your operating cash flows are positive and on time, and because tomorrow once the demand picks up, the market constraint might convert into a cash constraint or operations constraint at some point in time, right? So I'll just close the poll in maybe next about 5 seconds or so. I'll urge some of you who have not voted to please vote. I'll end the poll now, and I'll publish the results, share the results with all of you. I hope you are able to see now. So I think we have about 55, 56% people saying yes, we'll be able to identify and resolve. About 30% saying yes, but we might need some help in terms of understanding that, or maybe we need to go back and work on the numbers, etc. So great. And if you need any help in this regard, then Yagna is obviously there to help you. And then it is great feeling that some of us are not experiencing the cash constraint today, right? So I'll just stop sharing the results now.
Yeah.
Right.
So Shailendra, I just wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
Before we get to the summary. So in one of the projects, we had this thing going that whenever the Dil Mange More, right? Some of you might remember this Pepsi ad of Dil Mange More. So whenever
Yeah.
to an owner, you had people coming and saying, "I want more investment, more resources, more data, more technology." Right? He used to just say, "I'm just putting my hand on my heart and saying the Three Idiots movie style, all is well, all is well." Right? We have enough. We have all the resources. We have all the capacity. It is just a question of systematically thinking. We need, in fact, loom. So we started out with what I tried to communicate over the last 60 minutes.
Great.
So we'll now get into the summary. Shailendra, do you want to summarize?
Yeah, sure. If you can move to the next slide, Anuj, the slide after this.
Yeah.
I'm still not able to
Are
see
you
that. So
able
just
to
hold
see
on. No, not yet. I'm
something
still
to
seeing the summary.
think about?
Yeah, so here we are. So, so thanks Aniruddha for walking us through. So, just for the participants, so in last about 45 minutes, we looked at what is our organization goal, and how to look at the goal tree per se, and sort of reach to a situation where we sort of jump into constraints if we have some constraints at this point in time. Aniruddha spoke in detail about how differently we can look at goals, and we can segregate them. But end of the day, in our perception, the goal of any organization should be to increase the organization's value, right? Or increase the wealth that the organization creates. And one of the ways of looking at that is definitely the free cash flows, right? So as you would know, one of the accepted methods of valuation is free cash flows. So if you generate more operating cash flows, your business will be valued more, and you could be owning the entire equity. You may have some other investors on board. It doesn't matter, but end of the day, if your business is generating more value, it will be valued more. And I think that is one of the ways of taking care of all the stakeholders. You can pay better salaries to your employees, for example, right? So all those things are possible if only you can generate continuously you continue to generate the operating cash flows that are positive, right? So Aniruddha, I'm not sure, are you able to hear me? Yeah, I'm not able to see that slide now, so let's go back to that. So we looked at the goals, the organization goals. We also looked at how you identify the cash constraint, right? Just give me one moment, please. There's some disturbance. I'm not able to view the screen now.
Can you see the
So
slide?
just hold on for
I had some internet issues.
yeah, I'm able to see now. Yes, there was some problem. Yeah. So, and then we looked at,
Yeah.
we took a sort of a judgment of for this set of participants, which is the major constraint today. So broadly, we look at them as market or demand, and the second one is operations, right? So clear throughput in terms of the production capacity or the cash constraint itself, where we don't have, sufficient cash to basically run our business, right? So, and then what policies or measurements that we need to change. So we looked at how to focus on the single most important constraint in business and resolve that, so that we can resolve many other things that we otherwise feel are independent of that, right? And that's what theory of constraint focuses on. So look at that very critical constraint in your business. Once you resolve that, you can talk about it as a Pareto principle. For example, your 20% of actions can probably take care of 80% of your problems, right? So look at that, and then in specific today, Anuruddha helped us to understand how to look at the cash constraint in itself, right? And the 5-step or the 6-step methodology that he explained, that this can also be leveraged in the same way for resolving the operations constraint or the market constraints as well, right? So that is there. So thanks, Anuruddha, for walking us through. See, if the organization is currently not in the cash constraint, as Anuruddha advised, keep monitoring your cash flows very carefully, because the constraints keep moving from one place to another, right? Right now, maybe lower market demand is your constraint, but once that demand picks up, maybe you will get into operation constraint initially. How do I, address those challenges? My workers are not able to come today. There is a there's a lockdown, and then there is a quarantine period if the workers had gone back to their place, right? So there would be operating constraints that might first come up. And once you supply the goods, once you get the inventory and you have data on your books, then you might get into a cash constraint. So the cash constraint situation can happen. The constraints do move within the organization. There are hardly any organizations which don't have any constraint at any given point in time. I think very few organizations, right? So once you are in a non cash
There
constraint
will
kind of a
always
scenario.
be one constraint.
Sorry, Anuruddha, I couldn't hear you well.
No, I was just going to say that every company has definitely always one constraint which is present in any company. Otherwise, the company's profits will go to infinity.
Absolutely,
Doesn't.
absolutely, yes. And as the nature, the constraint keeps moving from a place to place.
Yep.
It's like the flyover construction in a city, right? The flyover just moves the traffic congestion from one place to another. So we need to continuously monitor that and take certain policies and measures. So if today you are not in the cash constraint, I think keep monitoring and you chalk out the actions that need to be taken if something is going wrong, right? And then you need to constantly keep monitoring and implementing those same policies, because today if there is no cash constraint doesn't mean you have forever got out of that situation, right? That's the point that we are trying to make. Back to you, Aniruddha. I think some slightly lag at Aniruddha's place. Aniruddha, I think you can take over.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes. Yes, Aniruddha, I can hear you. So just
My
bear with
apologies.
me.
I am having
Yeah,
some problems with the internet connectivity.
yeah. Please carry on, Aniruddha. We can hear you now. Please bear
Okay.
with the
Okay.
participants for a few seconds.
So I will just before I have switched off my audio just to protect the bandwidth. Shailendra, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay. So I think Shailendra summarized it very nicely. Yeah, Shailendra summarized it very well. Just adding on one or two points, I think once you are in a cash constraint situation, and when you come out of that, hopefully, you have to be very careful, because unless you understand the reasons you put in these different policies and measurements, once you come out of it, it cannot be that you remove everything whatever you had put in, because actually concepts like cash to cash cycle time and all are very very useful. And you will see successful companies actually having a very very short cash to cash cycle time. But at the same time you cannot continue with all the measurements and policies which you had put in place at the time of cash constraint, right? Because you had to put in those policies that funds from outside or whatever. So otherwise you will not accept this thing of 25% cash discount. So you have to be very careful, because otherwise you will end up taking some action in a different situation. So now what I want to do in a summary is, now if some of you are interested in getting a perspective from AI on path to higher performance, better performance, profits, I just want to quickly share with you. Hopefully you can see the slide. We use these three step approach of awareness, assessment and adoption. So today what I'm doing is like an awareness session where I have introduced to you the 5 focusing steps, and you can build on this by reading books and some more sessions. The main part which I want to talk about is the assessment, which is the second step of our 3 step process, where it is company specific, where it is company
We
specific,
still can't see
where
that
we will
slide. I
come
don't know what is the reason.
and
Yeah.
do
Okay. Now, okay. Please carry on. We can see the slide now.
yeah, that yeah, there's some should be lag. So
Fine.
what I was saying is the assessment. Yeah, the assessment part is the critical one which I want to talk about here. That this is a very short exercise, 1 to 2 weeks. The actual time which we take is, and we will come to a particular company and we'll help you to go through that 5 focusing steps. We'll identify the constraint for you, step one, because unless you have identified the constraint, you're shooting all over the place. And we'll give you some high level direction on how you can exploit that constraint and subordinate. Right? And the way we do it is in a 3D kind of approach. We have discussions with the senior team. We will take some basic data from you and we'll do some direct visits to plant and if required to the market. So, and currently, recommendation would be look at it. I think you will get a different perspective on your business every time we have done an assessment, whether it has gone to adoption or not. People have got a completely different perspective of their business, whether it is in terms of the goal, whether it is in the constraint, whether it is in. So we need to actively look at this, and that is it from my side, Shailendra. We can get into maybe the feedbacks and question and answers, or if you have anything to add.
Yes, so we'd now like to open the session for question and answers. Please raise your hand if you know that, or put it in the question bar as well. So you can do that also, or I can unmute you. See, one thing is, I think, Aniruddha, thanks for walking us through this concept. So fundamentally, most of us would have heard of cash flows and segregating cash flows into 3 buckets like operating, financing, and investing. But how do you leverage that powerful concept of operating cash flows to really scale your business, right? Because if you want to scale your business, you need to understand this concept very very well. So thanks for that. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So we will maybe we have about, I think, 20 minutes, so we can go for next about 20 minutes till about no 15 minutes till about 12:30 if you want to. If you have any questions, you will get as a follow-up of this webinar an email requesting your feedback. So please give your feedback. Let us know what we can improve and how you rate the webinar, because we intend to do a series of webinars. I have myself conducted at least 15 webinars in last about 3 months on with different topics, and today with Yagna also we want to do maybe a couple of more webinars in next 2 to 3 months. So please give us the feedback, how you rate that, any suggestions for improvement. And after submission of that feedback, you will also be able to download this presentation in case you want to go through those concepts again and see whether you can use them in your business, right? So that's about it. But now we'll open up for the question and answers. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. I think you should be able to unmute yourself, or maybe put it in the chat bar, and then I'll ask the questions to Aniruddha, or if I can handle it. Please go ahead. Thanks, Prashant sir. Thanks for the feedback. If anyone has any questions, maybe specific to your business or any concept you would like us to revisit, that's not clear. Yes, so Murli, just one moment. I'll try to unmute you. Give me a moment. Yes, so Murli, I have unmuted you. So please go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, it's a great session. Thanks a lot to CFO Access and Igna World. My question was, does these concepts apply to all industries or any specific industries like manufacturing? Because some of the business models followed by the new age industries like e-commerce, etc., is a bit different.
So Anita, you want to address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one is I will share with you that if you look at the overall theory of constraints, body of knowledge. Am I audible? Sorry,
Yes,
just
yes,
my
I
internet
can hear you.
connection is
Yes,
playing up. Am I audible?
yes,
Yeah.
Anita.
So what I'm saying is that if you look at the entire TOC body of knowledge, it is split into 4 levels. One is at the bottom, you have basic concepts, you have processes, you have tools, and you have application of TOC for a specific situation of cash constraint. But there are many other applications which are relevant for, say, a project-based industry, right? Today, I took many of the examples from manufacturing. But clearly, we know that a lot of our economic activity is also managed through projects, whether it is software, real estate, construction, whatever it is. So yes, there are definitely applications and many case studies across the world of how this concept has been used across different industries. So definitely in for profit, it has been used in hospitals, it has been used in not for profit, and there is also a TOC point of view on startups and early industries who are just starting out. Like say for example, you take this thing of identifying the significant need of the market, right? And around that, Dr. Goldratt came out with a framework. Like I shared today, the framework of 5 focusing steps. He has come out with a framework of 6 technology questions, which could be very, very relevant for startups and new technologies. That before you actually jump into developing a technology or buying a technology, how can you actually go through those 6 steps and make a better call? So yes, there are a lot of applications. I have only covered one small one today in 1 hour.
Anita, maybe you can little bit tell about the financial services companies for whom you are currently helping them resolve their sales challenges or market growth challenges.
Yeah, so I think in the process of starting an engagement with that client, and this client started out as a research company. It was only focused on what is generally called as knowledge process outsourcing. And now over a period of time, they have built a lot of IT into their solutions. And so it's more like now an IT company, which is servicing the financial services sector.
Right. So it's a
And
great example of, yeah, sorry, please go ahead. Sorry.
they've been growing at a particular rate, but obviously the aspiration is to do much better. In TOC, what we use a term called viable vision. Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say that. So their significant need, what we talked about in our presentation, is we have identified for them a direction on what is really the significant. Very simply, it is about ROI on technology investments. Everybody is talking about technology, but there are very few providers who actually talk about directly connecting their fees to the ROI which the client gets. So we are kind of moving in that model with this company.
Great. So I think so that was one. So I think there was another question. I think Aniruddha
Shailendra?
around specific challenges for a startup at different stages of development, etc. I think you partly answered that, right? So I'll move on. There's a question around calculation of cash to cash cycle time, whether inventory receivables and payables are average or weighted average or maximum or minimum. How do you calculate that? Aniruddha, I hope you are able to hear me. I think there is a some lag on Aniruddha's side. So please bear with us for a minute. I hope we'll be back soon.
Can I join from a different network? Can you give me a minute? Because this is proving to be difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just give me 1 minute. I will switch my network.
Okay, sure. We'll hold on. We'll close in about 9 minutes. Let Aniruddha join back if you have any questions. We'd like to address those. So meanwhile, let me repeat at the end, later today you will get a feedback request. So please give us feedback. It won't take more than 2-3 minutes. And at the end of the feedback, once you submit it, you will also get access to the presentation today. If you want to revisit the concepts and make it more useful for your organization. So I hope Aniruddha is able to join soon. Deepak, meanwhile, do you want to address this question around? I think so. We also have Deepak Nagar with us. So he is a part of Young Enterprises. So Deepak, do you want to address this question around the inventory data, etc.? Are they average, weighted average, maximum, minimum?
Yeah, hi, this is Deepak Nagar.
Yeah.
To respond to that, what specific calculations we do, it is for average, weighted average that we take for coming up with the inventory days. So how do you calculate inventory days? So you can take it as a inventory consumption for last 13 weeks, right? The raw material consumption for last 13 weeks and take an average of last 4 weeks of inventory and come up with the inventory days for that. And similarly for payables and receivables, look at what is the sales for last 3 months and what is the level of average receivables for last 4 weeks and come up with inventory days and receivable days and payable days.
Okay, thanks Deepak for answering that. So I think Aniruddha, I just requested Deepak to answer one of those questions. So we are okay with that.
Yeah, I
yes,
just went back to Jio. I think Jio seems to be the most reliable provider.
Yeah.
Sorry about this.
So Pawan, did I answer your query? Do you need any further clarification on this?
Yes.
Is Pawan still on?
Yeah, so Pawan, I'm unmuting you. If you have some more question to ask, please go ahead and ask.
Yeah, thanks for answering the question, Deepak. Just to clarify, you said inventory consumption for 13 weeks or your
Raw material consumption. Raw material consumption.
Okay. Not the raw material that you're holding for 13 weeks, because usually we hold
holding average inventory that you're holding for 4 weeks, and compare with what is the inventory raw material consumption for 13 weeks. So that will give you number of days of inventory that you're carrying.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that answers my question. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aniruddha. Thanks, Shailesh, for arranging this. It was a very good seminar. Hope to hear more of this.
Thank you, Pawan.
Thanks, Pawan. Yes, we will.
In fact, Sanjay Dedia is here and he has just written a comment on the chat box. Thank you very much, Sanjay.
Read that out. So there is a comment from Sanjay Dedia. So thanks, Sanjay, for this feedback. Sanjay says we have gone through the client engagement model by Yagna, followed by planning engine and 15-month game plan for turnaround. TOC is a great tool, and in just 4 months of implementation, we have immensely benefited so far, and complete thought process and perspective has changed. Cash constraint dashboard has made us collect our due payments to the tune of 96% in July 2020. And I think it's a fabulous achievement. We know today, the cash cycle and the issues because of the COVID endemic. So fantastic. Thanks, Sanjay, for this feedback. Anybody has any more questions?
Yeah, there were a few other questions.
No, I think we have handled those. Startup, I think Aniruddha handled it partly, but do you want to elaborate or anything like that on startups?
Yeah, say for the startup entrepreneur, maybe if it is an individual entrepreneur or a team of entrepreneur, the biggest constraint that they have is their time and attention, and they should not flitter this most important asset or commodity that they have in trying to pursue too many things. So if the first say they should look at it, say if they are into technology, if they are supposed to come up with a MVP, market valuable product, which they would take it to get funding, they should try and reduce the cycle time for getting there rather than attempting to do many things. And if they can avoid getting funded and get into a few paying engagements with a very limited product, it will be even better for them. So that is again constraint. They should be aware of what is the constraint. If it is time, they should try and compress all the work, drop everything. Like Aniruddha was saying, that once you know it is a cash constraint, drop everything else and focus on cash to cash cycle and cash IRR. And in case of startup, if it is that you have to reach a certain milestone which will demonstrate to your say prospect or a say angel investor or a VC that yes, you are on the right track, compress that and do it fast. So that is the advice.
Because in
Absolutely.
fact, just to add to that, I think in startups also cash becomes a very important thing, right? I mean, you keep on coming in and out of a cash constraint kind of situation. So as Deepak was saying, there, if you're developing a product, time becomes the most important factor. And doing few things and time and actually figuring out what is it that will work in the market. So that first part about answering what is it that will really work in the market, if you go through that, otherwise you can compress the time, but you will not get the benefit. So you will have to look at it from both these parts, that have I really identified the unmet need? It may not have been, it may be an unrecognized need, but if you can recognize that and develop the product fast, you are in a much better shape rather than generally, borrowing or taking cash from outside investors.
So thanks a lot, Aniruddha, Deepak. Thanks for chipping in, and thanks everybody for joining us today. So it's almost 12:28, and we are very conscious of time. So we'll close the webinar now. You will get a follow-up email from us requesting for the feedback. So please do give feedback. Won't take more than 3 minutes of your time. And at the end of the feedback, you will also be able to download the presentation that we used here today. So thank you very much. Please do follow CFO Axis as well as Yagna on LinkedIn and Facebook or Twitter, and you can join the next webinars that we attend. We'll be very happy to have you participating there. Thanks a lot, and goodbye for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.